Transformation is that you make changes, but the changes are in the same frequency of reality that you've always known. Like for a human, a transformation is that you're still the same person that you were, but you have transformed in a way that maybe your perception is wider, or you feel more comfortable with your emotions, or, it's that process of really being comfortable inside of yourself. That transformation is when you look at something in your life that you're not liking, and you decide you're going to transform it. You're going to transform it. And you don't know how you're going to transform it, but you're going to change. And transform means that you change it for the better. So you're going to change, but you are going to change it in a manner that you will feel better about it, or it will have a better function. Transmutation is where it goes into a completely different frequency. Like humans are third-dimensional beings, but you can transmute your consciousness. You can't really transmute your bodies until maybe you ascend. Then your body would ascend, and then you would transmute your body. But while you're still having the same old body you've had this whole lifetime, then what you can transmute is you can transmute your thoughts, and you can transmute your emotions. And so when you transmute your thoughts and your emotions, that means that you move them up into a higher frequency of awareness, that you are aware of what you are saying and doing and hearing, and you are allowing yourself to go up the ladder with that, go into a higher frequency with that experience, and then you're transmuting it into a higher frequency of reality. And that usually involves some form of meditation, or maybe, working out real hard, or, where you kind of like push your body to the edge and it clicks in to your aura. And so then it's not just your body, it's your body and your aura. And so you're transmuting it into that higher frequency of your aura. And then, of course, the test is to keep it that way, to keep your body and your aura hanging out together. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Danny? I think you're real good at having the body and the aura hang out.
Yes, I love that it is a multi-layered process, this transmutation, where it's not just physical and it's not just energetic, it's the whole picture itself. And when we are going through transmutation, is that always conscious, or can that happen unconsciously as well?
Very often it begins unconsciously, like maybe you have a dream, or you have a peak experience. But a transmutation, that's something that's better. That's something of a higher frequency, a higher brain waves, feeling better about yourself, feeling better about the world. So sometimes you might be like at a party and everybody's dancing. I remember back in the 70s, we had tons and tons of parties, and the whole room would just be filled. We'd all just be dancing our guts out and bumping into each other and laughing. It was so fun. And we transmuted into like this group of one. We were all doing something different, but we were all doing the same thing in a different way. And so that's what transmutation means in daily life, that the frequency of reality goes higher. But the different people, they're not all going to experience that shift in the same manner, because they all have their own background, their own thoughts, their own emotions, their own fears. And transmutation is what the Galactics are assisting humanity to do, because the Galactics are assisting humanity to move into that higher frequency, like from their third dimensional self to their fourth dimensional self up to their fifth dimensional self. We're being assisted to transmute our consciousness into a higher frequency, and then our behaviors go into a higher frequency as well.
This process of transmutation sounds a lot like a return, in a way, to our higher expressions of self. Those are the beings that we are all the time, but for right now, we are in this third dimensional body that's bound to time and space. And so we're going to have those third dimensional experiences that are gradually leaving time and space and going into the fourth and the fifth, sixth, seventh, however high up you want to go. And I love what you said about how it's an individual journey. It's not everyone transmuting the same exact way in the same exact manner at the same exact time. It's just natural, like it comes in a authentic way that everyone is going to experience differently. And it would make sense that the star beings right now are really helping us with this process, because you've talked a bit about this before, but when we transmute and focus inwards for our own beings, it affects everything around us, including the planet herself.
You're right in that the planet, Gaia, is in the process of transmutation herself. So think of yourself as, your human self transmuting. And transmuting doesn't mean that, I've got to get all this done by X amount of time. It means I am stepping into a new territory here. This is something that I'm not real comfortable with about, because I haven't experienced it before, but it keeps calling me. When the Arcturians first came in, they kept calling me. And then finally I just gave into it and said, okay, all right, I'm going to write down what you say, because I know I'm not going to remember it if I don't write it down. And for all of you that are here that are in this process of transmuting your consciousness to a higher frequency, the 3D body isn't used to that. So you're going to have to write down what you say, and write down what you said you were going to do, write down what you're thinking, because you have to, you're in the process of recalibrating your brain to attach to, expand, and hold on to a higher frequency of consciousness. And there's a lot of things going on in the world right now that could be scary, but sometimes transmutation is very scary, because in the process of transmutation, you're going where you haven't gone before. So that comfort zone is now shifting.
That's a wonderful point to make. And you tied something in really interestingly about, if you really do take a good look at the world right now, how much is unraveling, how much chaos and discord there is. But if we look at it from that higher dimensional lens, this is the transmutation. Have to clear out what's not working to get to what can be and what we're working up towards. And there's a component of that that's in space and time that we're physically seeing, because again, we're in that third dimensional reality. But if it's in space and time, then it's a finite event. It's finite chaos. It's finite dishevel. It's finite all kinds of shifting. And the chaos eventually comes to equilibrium. And if I were to speak on that for transmutation as a whole, it's like a return to balance. And that's what the Earth is doing. She's returning to equilibrium, to balance. And since we are a part of the Earth just by being here, just by being made up of the same ether, water, fire, earth, air, that everything else around us is, then we are truly more part of that process than we might imagine ourselves to be.
Yes, and you brought up a great point about the earth, air, fire, and water. That there is a transmutation within each of those 4 prime elements, because all those elements go together to create the reality that we're having. And humanity they need a place to live, earth. They need air to breathe, air. They need sun, fire, and they need water. And humans need all of those things, earth, air, fire, and water. And they also are in this process now of beginning to realize that they can make a difference. They can make a difference. And sometimes when people forget that they can make a difference, then something comes in that is just like, oh no, I can't tolerate this. No, this, I finally have to speak up. This is not okay. And that is part of that process. That's part of that transmutation. Because you've gone through that process and you tried to fix it in this 3D way and that 3D way. Maybe you even got to a kind of sort of little creative, kind of low 4D way, but none of it really worked. So what needs to happen is that you just need to go for the gusto, go into that full transmutation. And transmutation is bring it into that 5th dimensional here, now. Because that's the big difference, because 1st, 2nd, and 3rd is very, very time bound. But once you get into the 4th dimension, I mean, how many times have you had a dream or a meditation that it seemed like it lasted for hours, and you wake up and you look at the clock and it's been 5 minutes? That's your brain transmuting to be able to function at a higher frequency. I remember the first thing that happened to me, and that was my introduction to the Arcturians. And that's really a transmutation thing. Our 3rd dimensional self is not going to believe that we can talk to an unseen being that lives in some planet far away that you're not even sure is real. The 3D self is not going to go there. That's ridiculous. Who do you think you are? You're crazy, right? So humans have to go into this transmutation, this stepping up of their frequencies, of what they can accept as a possible reality. Because at first it's just going to be a possible reality. You're not going to just one day just be a total 3D person, and the next day it's like, oh, look, there's a starship. You know, I'm going to go up, going to change my life and see if I can get on the starship. No, it usually has to happen. Transmutation, you have to kind of ground every cycle of it. Otherwise, you just go a little crazy. It's too much. You know, it's kind of like if you're doing a garden and you just plant everything all at once, then there's different flowers, and different flowers need different kinds of fertilizer and different kinds of water and different kinds of sun, different kinds of shade. And so within humans, we have all these different parts of ourselves. And so each of those different parts needs a little different form of transmutation.
And it makes sense that it doesn't just all happen at once. And this ties back into what you were talking about how it's our brains literally rewiring. It's like when people talk about when they incorporate more gratitude in their lives, how that rewires the brain. And that's an act of transmutation right there, being grateful. And how you respond to life changes and transmutes into a higher reality, that you are grateful for what is occurring in your life, you're grateful for who you are. That isn't something that happens overnight. That's just not the nature of our reality here on Earth. It's a process that we have to be very gentle with. So the more compassionate and gentle we can be for ourselves, the smoother this transmutation can go, because it is happening. It is occurring. Just go with the flow.
Yes. And there's also that that saying, good, better, best, never let it rest. Once you start realizing that you have this power of transmutation, that you don't have to be a psychic, you don't have to be, a priest, or, you don't have to study for 50 years. No, every human has that ability. And that ability is that they can look at something from a different frequency rate. So let's say you're walking through the woods and you're at a low frequency rate, and you trip on a rock and damn rock, and then then there's a weed on the ground. Oh, get rid of those weeds that, you don't even notice that there's a flower inside the weed, And so, you're looking down and you're seeing this is wrong and that is wrong and that's no good and that's no good. Whoa, then by the time you get home, you're a mess. You are depressed because you depressed yourself. And that's when you need some transmutation. That's what you need to say, you know what? I'm going to take that walk again. And when I hit my toe on that rock, I'm going to pick it up and say, wow, that's a really pretty rock. Look, it's got all these neat striations and everything. It's got this great, I think I'm going to take this home and use it as a, put it on my papers because they always fly around. That's actually a really nice rock. And so what you're doing is you're transmuting yourself to focus on how you could expand, how you could raise the consciousness of your life. And so you take something that you used to kick aside and take it home and make it have a privileged place in your life. And it's the same way with people. You might feel a certain way about a person, and maybe they hurt your feelings once or twice, and you could never forgive them. And so you have this little kind of mega feud going on, and you're sad every time you think about them. And it wasn't your fault. But then if you go into this fifth-dimensional transmutation, then you think, okay, wait, that's a really low frequency of thought. I really made myself the victim. Do I really want to be the victim? No, I don't. That's not fun. So I am going to look at myself and say, okay, what did I do? Did I do something here? And then you realize that, oh, I remember I did so and so. But I'm not going to get mad at myself, because then that's the same as getting mad at them. And so right off, you're beginning to have some control over your emotions. You are the boss of your own emotions. You are beginning to transmute your emotional body out of that emotional reaction.
What you were saying about our emotions, our emotional body, and how in tune we are with that, both consciously and subconsciously. But when we can be the awareness behind our emotions, then it becomes a lot easier to not be mad at ourselves, like you were saying, but rather to say, okay, this is how I was reacting to this person or this situation. Do I want to react this way? No, doesn't feel good. But how can I transmute this? How can I move forward if I don't want to be stuck in this particular emotion or this particular experience? Starting internal, starting with yourself, is a lot more impactful than we might think it is. I think a lot of times we look at what we can and can't control in our reality. How can you influence that person? How can you change that person? What can I do to make it how I want it to be? But if we just start from an internal place of, it's okay. It's okay. This is a temporary feeling. This is a temporary experience. And I'm not a victim to my emotions. I'm not a victim to my thoughts. I am the awareness behind them. And that is how I can be confident that they will transmute.
Yes. That when we go into a place where we feel funky or feelings hurt or angry, sometimes it's okay. You just feel a little while. You feel the hurt. All right, that's okay. Feel the hurt. You can feel the hurt. And then when you feel the hurt, then it's like, okay, do I want to walk around with that hurt all day, or am I ready to let go of it now? I felt it, and it wasn't fun, and I'm done. Don't try to always transmutate a situation. Sometimes it's the other person. Sometimes it has nothing to do with you. You just happen to be the person that's there. And sometimes people are offline. And for being married for 41 years, when people are offline, it's because they want to be offline. Just leave them alone. Don't try to transmute them. Just let them be offline for a while. You're all facing the same unknown, invisible fear. And the secret is to transmute it out of fear. Transmute that out of fear. Because fear just makes you scared. And being scared is not helpful. And so transmuting it into patience, transmuting it into remembering that we are the bosses of our life. And there's things that happen, and then there's our reaction to the things that are happening. And very often we can't transmute the things that are happening because they're not ours. We didn't create them, so we can't fix it. But we can transmute our reaction. And maybe at first we get scared, we get angry, we get judgmental, and then we transmute that and say, okay, that is not helpful for anything. So I'm just going to transmute that and move into, this is the reality that I'm in right now, and I'm transmuting it into as high a frequency as my consciousness can hold within this now. And actually the Arcturians, they popped right in, and we are the Arcturians. We are speaking through Suzanne. So because we have no ego, we do not need to display what our real body is or how our real voice feels. And also, we, the Arcturians, resonate to a frequency of reality that is beyond the perceptual field of humanity. And your perceptual field is the energy field that you are able to perceive with your third dimensional perceptions. But as you're moving into a higher frequency, into like your fourth dimensional frequency, then you're thinking, wow, this is nice. Now you're moving into your emotional body. Look at transmuting as an innate ability. You don't have to learn it. You don't have to be good enough. You don't have to do it in any certain way. Because what transmuting is that most people, they use maybe 9-10% of their brain, maybe more depending on what they do and how they do it. They can, when they transmute, what they do is that they open up all these little doors and windows in their brain. And they say, okay, I'm ready to go to that next frequency up. Because transmuting is like if you have a beautiful song playing, but you can't quite hear it, so you go up and you turn up the volume. And then you hear it, and then you do something else, and you still can't hear it enough. And then you turn up the volume really loud, and then you start dancing to it and jumping around, and you just really get into that whole transmuting how you feel. And so transmutation is really a lot about how one feels about their inner and their outer life. It's important to remember that you can change how you feel. about your inner and your outer life, because you have control. It's your feelings, it's your inner life, and it's your outer life, which is your actions. Transmutation doesn't just mean change. Transmutation means to put it into a higher frequency. If you say you want to plant a tree, if you don't dig a big enough hole for the roots, then the tree will not grow. And so before we want something to get better, we have to go down inside and transmute that which has stopped us from not doing it so far, without judging ourselves, without having a pity party, without saying, you stupid idiot. No, it's like, okay, I wasn't ready for that yet, but I think I'm ready now. Now I am ready to allow myself to transmute into a leap of my perception of reality, because a whole lot has to do with one's perception. Because you've all had bad days, and you look outside and you're having a bad day inside yourself, and your car won't start, and the traffic is too much, and the line at the store, and it's all a mess. But if you come out and you're in a good space and you realize that those things are happening, you have a choice. There's a way to transmute it out of a difficult, uncomfortable situation and into an easier, more comfortable, I'm in charge of my life way of looking at it. So transmutation is not about some outside energy field telling you what it is. Transmutation is an inside yourself, giving yourself permission to go beyond those hidden limitations, and to look those limitations and say, blaze, blaze, blaze the violet fire, transmuting all limitations into light, light, and love of myself.
Wow, what a powerful recognition of our own innate capability. That it's not about it being done to you, but it's about you. You are the doer, you are the receiver. And that's a responsibility that you don't have to be afraid of. You don't have to be afraid of your own power, your own ability. It's from within. It's power within. It's from your heart. So being able to recognize that you don't need anyone to tell you, you don't need anyone to do it for you, like you said, is an incredible recognition mentally.
It merges all the different frequencies, because you can climb up that ladder because it's your ladder and you're creating it, and you're consistently telling yourself, yes, I can, yes, I can, yes, I can, yes, I can. And it's that yes, I can that allows you to transmute that which you thought you couldn't into that which you are loving doing. I am going to leave it with something that we, the Arcturians and Suzelle, are passing on to you. So when we say I or we don't mean Suzelle or the Arcturians. We mean you to be the I, you to be the we. Put your feet on the ground and make your spinal column straight and pull your head back, and so that the higher light can come in through your crown chakra and go all the way through your body, out through the bottom of your feet and into the core of Gaia. Remember that the frequency of your reality is very dependent on the amount of love and light for yourself and for others that you hold within your beingness. Because if you don't have love and light for yourself, then how can you give love and light to others? And if you give love and light to others and you don't love yourself, you're going to run out of it pretty quick. And so feeling that love and light that you are within your core, and ground it into Gaia, so it goes down, down, down into the center of her planetary self, and then send it up, up, up to join in with all of her planetary family that are in her solar system. And relax in the knowing that you are one. You are